Hello, everybody. This is Eternal Reading again, posting up the third part of the Weird Frequencies review, which I've started. There's two other parts with the first four stories, and the second part would be the second four stories. And in this part, we're jumping into the last five stories, one being a comic, like a wee mini comic. I've now finished the whole lot, and at the end of this review, I'll kind of give a summary of all of it together. But we're going to just dive in straight away to Virgil story, which is called All Things Unto Themselves, which was a good name in my opinion. When you read into the story and there's a wee bit that was said, I thought that was a good that was a good name for the story. Now this, I'm trying to find it now. Here we go. I'll read out his wee blurb again. I've done it with all the rest. I hope the focus is okay there. Virgil Scene or Sign of Literary Books, copyright, is a known human. He has written microfiction published by Black Hair Press. What follows might be his first work of completed macrofiction. It isn't. If he has self-published his previous work before this release, the title will appear here. That's our title. Otherwise, it's got away from him and run off into the night again. It could be anywhere, even right behind you, fanning your neck even now with its manacle pages. Its glue dripping in anticipation of another kill. Probably one of those two. His family begged him not to write his own bio, but the madness was upon him again. Alas, he lives in home, and when he has to go there, they have to let him in, just like Bob Frost said. This first story is the premise of it at the start is you've got this soldier, the Fang, and they were captured, and they have to try and escape from this other race. I don't know if it's another race of humans or another race of or soldiers, but they have to try and escape, and they manage to get a ship. And when they're going into the space, the only way they can go is into the nothing, into the dark abyss of space. And our main character, Reith, has he's had a predicament. He's got a problem. So well, I don't think we'll spoil it here, but we'll just say he has to keep an eye on his brothers in arms and put them in like a sleep, so when they finally get somewhere, that they can. He's there to protect them because he has no chance. They reckon he has an infection in his arm, and he's there to look after his friends just in sleep while they get to this other place and make sure it all goes to plan. But he has a bit of hope. Something comes out from the deep abyss of space, another rocket, and that rocket came from like a planet Terraform, I think it was called. Terrarium, I think it was called, and it was a place where like a resort for people to go to, and it gave him a bit of hope. It was the first time he could actually have his first time of freedom of making his own choice, and his own choice was, you know, I'm going to have my freedom here to try and survive. That's what you think of it at the start. So he goes to this place, and then that's when it starts to really take off. The writing and the sentences in this is absolutely brilliant. As I say, even the first wee bit I read here, I knew this was going to be, the descriptions, the way as with words, it's very weird, but it's very, you had to really look in deep. It's a bit of a deep read, this one again, the same as Last Rites. It might be a bit tricky for some people that's not really into weird fiction, or it's new to weird sort of SF. It might go over their head a wee bit, but we'll get to that. As I say, even this bit here, look, the hair was this colour, one of death's colours, and it seemed to surround and support the head, to give angry accent to the eyes that burned beneath, eyes hot and yellow as the evil bile that runs from the wound. And then when you get to this wound here, even the description of the wound, he had a wound in his right forearm, can't even speak. He had a wound in the right forearm, a furrow meteorite might make in the black silt of a dead moon, and under the skin were dark roots tunneling the muscle, looking for the path to the final heat of his heart. The wound would kill, but that was nothing. Before it killed, it would corrupt. Now, to all give too much away, but you hear it. Remember about corrupt and corruption, because this story really, there's a lot happening. You're not really sure what's happening. I don't want to give it away because it's brilliantly written. The whole story it's one to reread. I think out of them all, this would be the best story to reread over again. that's the beauty in it. It's not a downside. Some of these stories in Weird Tales or SF, it's the reread where you're going to get more out of it. And I believe this one out of the whole uh, collection is definitely worth a reread. I'll be coming back to this one in the future because I know it's played in my head and you want to go back and see. I want to let it sit for a bit and then I'll go back and read it. But it's great, as I say. This the sentence that this man's writ here. Some of the words. I don't want to spoil it and read out too much, like, but some of the words. Uh, it's brilliant. There's a thought occurred. Was the hunger he felt his? Was it true? Was it good? Or was it a poison? Even more, was it a waste of energy? All life is a waste of energy. All fire consumes. All existence is expenditure. Reith heard the old teaching echo within himself, the voice of scarred masters with ruined eyes and crippled hands. All things unto themselves, he said quietly as he flicked a final switch. A distant whine echoed up from the main rocket until he howled and leapt in pursuit. And that was him. He's got freedom now to choose. He's gonna try and choose survival, or did he? That's, you had to read on, because the way that goes when you get to this place, that's where it gets really imaginative. This terrarium, and when he reaches there, that's where it kind of goes into, what way would I describe it? Imagine Gene Wolfe writing a Kafkaesque fever dream. It's a they go in like a fever dream, and there's that much happening at times. There's characters come in and they're jumping in and out, and he's you don't know what's real, what's not at times, and it's the best way I would describe this was if Gene Wolfe was to be inspired by Kafka and writ a fever dream. It's really there's wee meanings, I think, in the sentences that brings out more of the story. But you have to find them. You have to dig deep to try and get the meanings. At times, it's not going to be force fed to you. It's one of them stories where it's deep reading time. It's a bit more deeper, a bit more thought put into it. You have, while you're reading it, he's asking a lot from you as a reader as well, to put the time and the effort to figure out what is going on here. And with the ending, you have to figure out. Kind of, I don't want to say I want people to figure out their own way of it, but to me, I understood. I was like, yes, it's so. There's a bit of, you know, what would be the word? He was not just he sacrificed. There was sacrifice for his friends too, which I thought, what he was doing. He was a soldier till the end, in my opinion, and it's a great story. I do think it'll be hard for people that are new to weird fiction. It might go over their heads, but it's definitely worth a reread. It was perfect, in my opinion, for the choice of words and sentences. I'll put it that it's one to reread. It's a tricky one for a lot of heads. I think a lot of new readers to this sort of genre, but it wasn't. It was good. I enjoyed it very much. You've done a good job. Everyone has. As I say, there's not a bad book or bad story in this here so far. It's been a pleasure to read it. Well, we're going on to the next story, which was called It Was on Deck 3. Eric Wag hails from the frosty land of Hyperborea, where he usually wields his broadsword, but on occasion revs his muscle car or drops his ship into warp space. He is currently writing sword and sorcery shorts, finishing his third novel and hanging out with his kids. He can be found at wagbooks.com. Now, I don't see a YouTube channel for this guy. I hope that's not. I hope you can see that okay, because I'm going to have to get a better karma at some time. But funny enough, when I read his name, I kind of recognised it, and I was like, I've seen that on Amazon before, and one of his stories is actually on I've bookmarked it to pick up in the future at some stage. It was like a story of Conan the Barbarian, like Norse warrior, and I came up with my recommendations one time, and I actually bookmarked it. And at the time, I think it was only one book, but now there's three, and this would be a great writer to get into if you just want a wee bit of easy escapism, good fun writing, and just entertainment. Again, the edit in this book is very good in the sense where we'll talk that about the end more, but they've edited it well for every story follows into the next perfectly, so you're not getting bombarded with too much like hard, weird horror, and then it's broken up into sections where it kind of slows down a wee bit and gives you time to settle down and just have an entertaining read. And this was put in this book at a perfect place, and it's a story about a character called Rex, who is like a space junk guy, I think. It goes to places, and he's got a partner that's like a big. He's like a big dog, like a Chewbacca. I picture him like Chewbacca, but a dog, you know. But it reminded me of Han Solo and uh, the you know like the two partnerships. The dog can't speak, but they understand each other. You know, it's quirky in there in that sense, but it's also very, in my opinion, this was like a hats off to the classic golden age of SF. More like the stories would have been wrote in the old weird magazines back in the 30s, the 40s, where with all these space pistols and mad characters and it's good fun. Rex is the competent man. Nothing was going to stop him ruining his day. He was going to, no matter what, this man was going to get out of any sticky situation. That's what this character is. He's like Han Solo, but uh, just a bit different, a bit more confidence. I think even he's more confident than Han Solo. The things he says to people, it's humor writing. There's humor through it, and it's just a very good, interesting read. It's a wee bit hairy, must have marked, so it must have been something. Show you a bit of the writing style. Rex flew on instruments alone until he caught sight of the lights on the facility grounds. Under the harsh white lights that burned like pinpricks in the darkness, Rex hovered over the dusty black top and nudged the repulsors until he was smacked in the middle of the landing pad. Another perfect drop, Rex said, blowing on his fingers. Let's go and see what's out there. You know, that's him. Like him, nothing's a worry. He's full of confidence and uh, he's a hero in that sense. You know, he's confident and he's competent as well. But I like this guy. I wish he was in it more. It's this blue alien, sore, blue skinned guy appears, and the way he talks is like he's your gangster, like back in the old days. He's jumping out, shouting, uh, "No trouble if you play nice, nice. If no, then plew." You know, and the way he's talking is very strange. He reminded me of I'm hoping right here remembering what the episode was, but I remember years ago watching a South Park episode about a derby car, and there was an alien came down, and I remember that alien jumping out, and the way he talks, he's like a gangster from the past, you know, with his wee pistol. And I don't know why, but when I read that bit with him, this guy, it just reminded me of him. I might be wrong. You can correct me in the comments, but if I can remember, it was something about a derby car, and it was Stan's dad, and all. It was hilarious. And that character, I would have loved to have seen him actually in it more. I mean, funny them two actually being stuck together or something, but as I say, that's not the way he went with the story. He went with more you know, him saving the damsel in distress and meeting up and his wee dog, his wee friend, or Pulcho, I think his wee dog's called. He's his wee partner in it, and oh, it's fun. This is a fun read. This was put in a perfect place for you to slow down a wee bit again and just have entertainment, and that's hats off for that. It wasn't anything too serious. I wasn't going to let you think this was just a page turner, excitement, fun, and there's a lot of them stories throughout this collection when you put them all together, which I'll get at the end. So we'll move on. I don't want to drag on here. I'm hoping to keep this under half an hour because I'm scared in case if I make it too long, we'll watch it. So we went to this next story, Faster Than Life. Now, the Outlaw. This is a new YouTuber that I only found because of this book, and I've subscribed. I love the way he does his videos. I think old school 5. You know, it's great. So a good thing about this book has got me to find these new booktubers. But the Outlaw Levi Wallace is an author from the southern of the United States. He operates a book-focused YouTube channel tending towards the odd and macabre and all things unusual. His first novel, The Sunken Door, a weird fiction horror tale following the steps of Lovecraft, Wellman, and Weird Tales, is available on Amazon.com. His second novel, a Southern Gothic vampire story titled Honest John, is set to be released in the fall of 2025. That is, if the damn things crouching in the dark don't catch him first. Now, this story was brilliant. So it was. The whole writing style in this, the way Levi or Levi, I hope I'm not butchering your name, the way he wrote this, I'm trying to get a bit of synopsis first because I don't want to just jump into the writing style. It's a story about this ship that goes faster than light, but it's like faster than life. And when they have these blackouts, and that's when it gets really strange, really weird. They go in, the whole scenes change. They go into like a twilight lights, and they look like death, and everybody feels like down and worried, and it's the way he described this spaceship and the way he described the characters and the way they're dressed in motley colours and like a circus colours, the battle depression and even the ship being made in like square yellow and black colours and then the names of the characters all have nicknames. Now I don't know if it's just because we were talking about this character or this writer came to my head not long ago because I was watching a video, Thomas Ligotti, but I got Thomas Ligotti vibes off this, and I don't know if it was because of the world and the characters' names and the way they all work off each other and they say their nicknames, and it's strange. It's just really strange and eerie. But the idea was absolutely brilliant. I thought it was a brilliant idea, and the story and the characters. It's really dark, really imaginative, very eerie, very macabre, very. There's lots. This is one of the creepier ones. Like it's strange. This would you know this would be a great movie. Say you could have made this in a great movie, and the ending's brilliant. But we'll get to that a wee bit. I'm not going to ruin anything. I'm not here to. I want people to find these for themselves. I'm just trying to get a kind of an idea of you buy this book what you're getting. But this here Guy Parsons with his friends and all their names are brilliant. Like, and his choice of his sentences are brilliant too. They're a bit like Virgil's in a sense, where great with words, very clever, and here we go. There's a wee bit. I get a bit of the writing style. I think this is when the blackout happens on the ship. So no, I don't show any. I'm trying my best not to show any spoilers. If I do, let me know in the comments, and I'll tone down a bit in any future videos. Realistically, it shouldn't make a big difference whether a man has his eyes open or shut when entering blackout. However, there isn't a sailor born that can't tell you that the difference between realistically and reality is night and day. Everyone holds their eyes open during blackout. Only once. There are no words to express the depths of the far out nothing that attaches to a man during this time or that time. It is an experience shared only by those that dare to cross dare to cross through the barrier uniting sailors across all classes and ranks. To recognise a sailor, you've only to mention blackout and watch for the shift in his eyes as he remembers the moment that never ends. And there's that fear, dark eeriness to it all throughout. It's a great story. It just gets better. It gets better with time. It starts to get more dramatic, a bit more stranger. It's weird. It's a weird tale. And as I say again, it's put in a perfect place because you got a weird one with Virgil, more mellowed down one with more entertainment, and then this really weird one again. And the overhead twilights, along with the lantern Billy Bones had set out, because one set of twilights is never enough to see by. Make a man look half dead. Everything the twilights touch looked washed out, used up. A fellow with the healthiest tan in the world turns grey underneath their glow. That's why the walls, the furniture, even the crew's clothes were dyed with reactive pigments, elaborately patterned, and garish circus colours meant to forestall depression on long voyages, visible only when the twilights were used or in use. All it was to highlight how ill the men looked. So even when they tried to it just made them look iller. So everybody looks like corpses walking about in this place. It's doom and gloom. But you see the idea with the dreams. I don't want to ruin too much. I want people to find out for themselves for the weirdness. But it's a horror mystery. I love the way he used the IQ of certain characters and different levels of engineers, and the atmosphere was brilliant, and the ending I thought was fantastic. The end. It's another thing I say about this whole collection. Every ending has been brilliant, perfect. Sometimes it just pulls the rug from under your feet, and you're just like, wow, it was a great ending. It's quite a big one too. I think it was one of the bigger ones in the novel, but it's worth the time. It's brilliant. Another brilliant tale. Now this next one is the wee comic one, and I was a bit tempted to show it all, but then I thought, well, maybe he doesn't want that. Maybe this guy will maybe want you to find out, experience it yourself when you get this book, and I understand that. So I'm gonna give my thoughts just on this one without showing any too much of it. Richard Rimple is a retired teacher not earning a living on YouTube. Previous to making videos for his channel, Vintage SF, Science Fiction, Not San Francisco, he drew comics. You can find both his comics and videos on his website, Vintages SF CA, Canada, I would imagine that is. Now, this story It's a love letter. It's not really weird and scary or anything like that, but it's a wee feel good one. It's a lovely one for the fans. It's a lovely one for the people that wrote this because it's showing you uh, how no matter who are fans of weird fiction, the communities that watch these guys on YouTube, and the people that buy these books, it shows you that novels in a way gets us all together. It doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter what country you're from. It doesn't matter what religious background you have. When we're all readers, we all have something in common. All us fiction readers, we're all trying to go to another place in our mind, and we've all empathy. I find that people that read novels and read weird fiction and read any novels, in my opinion, they have a bit of empathy because they're not just in themselves all the time. And this wee story shows the difference between age and even the books that people can read. You could read a different book from somebody else sitting in the bus, and you get that guy. I could be looking over and somebody could be reading Ernest Hemingway, and you could turn around to me and look at me, and I could be reading, I don't know, Clark Ashton Smith, Michael Moorcock. But you kind of know there's respect there. We're together. We're in the same club. It's like and it was a nice wee play thing he put in there to slow it down again after that shocker of an ending from the last story, uh, which is brilliant. Faster than life. The ending, it was like whoa, and then that slowed you down a wee bit again, which I liked. It was back down the back down the earth again to settle you back until you get into the last story in this, which I finished just this morning. And yeah, it's a lovely wee comic. I'm trying not to show anything because I want people to really experience it themselves. It's only a couple of you can just look at. No, it's not going to take you long to get through, but it's really worth the experience. So we got to the last story, and not least, by the way. Jim, or John Chapman if you prefer, is a wizard and author and painter of General Scoundrel who hails from the southwest of England. His YouTube channel, News from the Gilding, is a shambolic melting pot of strange and wonderful held together by a wing and a prayer, and a fair amount of foul language. His latest novel, Brown Robe Blues, a humorous fantasy story about a washed up wizard who has to somehow save the world. That's his latest novel. Now, that's a new channel for me. I just subscribed last night. I seen this bit last night, but I read the story today, and I went on last night and I seen his channel and I watched his review for a story that I've been wanting to read for a long time. And the channel looks like a place where I'm going to be staying around and watching all his backlog. And I've seen with a lot of these, like Literary Books, Virgil's channel, Andrea, all of them. I've subscribed to these all because you have the same taste in me in novels. So it's a pleasure reading this, but it's also a pleasure to find your actual channels as well and be able to go through that. With this from now on. But we'll talk a bit more at the end. We'll go straight to the story, The Dig. Now, The Dig. Hold on, I've got wee things here just to help kind of remember bits. This story, in my opinion, this man has a gift of prose. His prose, it's like prose poetry. It could be beautiful one minute and then just dark the next in it, but it's still beautiful. He's got prose poetry, in my opinion. He's a great way with words. They all do. They've all got great way with words, great sentences. But this here throughout was just such a pleasure to read. Just the words just flowed off the page, just flowed off the page brilliantly, and it was really thought provoking. It was very weird. Again, there's weird frequencies. It has to be, doesn't it? But it just got weirder and darker when it went on, and it was a joy to read. That was my highlight this morning. Sitting reading this wee story it was great, and we'll show a wee bit about but we'll talk a wee bit about the story. The story is about this man who comes home and he's got a bit of guilt. He's got a bit of guilt with himself, worry, anxiety. He's having trouble at home with his wife, and out of nowhere he gets a higher calling. Like, he doesn't know where it came from, but something's in him that's telling him to just go out and dig. Is he digging away his guilt? You'll have to figure out. Is he obsessed or is he possessed? You'll have to figure that out yourself. But he goes into an obsession of digging into his garden, and all life gets forgotten about, and that's where it gets absolutely weird. But his writing style, as I say, it's brilliant. Slowly and with infinite care, he turned the key, gently easing the barrel of the lock from 3 o'clock to 9. Despite his caution, he felt the latch suddenly disengage, a metallic clang echoing through the silence of the house like a gunshot. I'm going to wake her up here, he's freaking out. Cursing, he closed the door behind him and placed his briefcase against the wall. For a full minute, he stood completely still in the darkened hallway, listening for any sign of movement. And you could just read on; it just flows off the page perfectly. It's prose poetry, in my opinion. Let's see what else we got here. In truth, he hadn't told her why he had been avoiding her, because he didn't want to scare her. For how could you tell the love of your life that you were losing your mind? You know, it's just, and it gets even darker than that. That's great. And he goes out and he starts digging into his ground, and I don't want to ruin it. That's one the for the reader at the end. It's a great way to end this whole novel, this whole anthology. End it dark, but a wee bit. I'm not going to say no. I was going to say something else at the end, but no, don't want to ruin it. Ends brilliantly, so it does. Now, I want to give a kind of an overall synopsis of this. This has actually been one of the better. I done a video not that long ago. It's me small channel still. Like, I only started doing YouTube about a month and a half there. But I done a video there saying my favourite reads, and you can go back and watch what you want. Like, it's shaky camera and all, kind of learning my ropes. But I started this at the end of the year, and I'm gonna say this is one of my favourite reads for last year easily. It's there. I'd put it up along with everything else I read. I read about, say, 40, 35, 40 odd books, loads of poetry, loads of short stories. But this as a novel in itself was a pleasure because from start to finish, there's not a bad story. It was edited perfectly. So Jake done a brilliant job at editing this. He worked with the writers and he done an absolutely fantastic job editing because see every story is put in this in the most perfect spot. You know, you've got your entertainment stories like Beyond the Thick and Ruins of Balor, The Fintai. It was on deck 3. They're like your adventure stories, but they're put in perfect space because in between that you've got your like gems. You know, your weird, deep thinking reading stories like The Mouth of the World, Junction Junction. Even the next cycle's thought provoking world building was brilliant. You know, it makes you think. There'll be mood stories. You know, there's a mood to them, and then with the last rites, hidden gems, last rites, all things onto themselves, and faster than life. They're really weird. They're deep, weird stories where you have to put a bit more thought into them, and the dig as well. Maybe a bit more thought, maybe into we had to use it. Imagination. It's a lot of thinking involved, especially with all things onto themselves. I think it's going to be a classic in the future more. I think people might pick this up and it might overwhelm them a wee bit, but it's one of them, like, as I say, like a Gene Wolfe SF story. You know, now it's maybe first time reading it, it's maybe tricky, but see after you read it a couple of times, you'll understand. It is for that type of weird tale. But all in all, the absolute pleasure to read this, guys, and great art by Wizard Jim or John Chapman. The front cover there, as I say, I noticed when I watched your videos last night, you've got the wee art board and all behind you, so you're a great artist, mate. So you are. But throughout the whole, it's worth buying. See if you're in the weird tales, and or even watchers of these guys on YouTube. And I know I'm a wee small channel out there at the minute, but if say you're just I found this book coming out for watching Tim's channel, and the Nick, so. But then I jumped into this and see every story in this and every YouTuber in this. It was absolutely fantastic. They've all know it was made with love, written with love, and it shows in the stories. Everyone was brilliant, and the edit by Jake to keep them all the way he made it, and I'm assuming he helped them write these stories, and he's done a brilliant job. So hats off to you. You should be really proud of yourself. It was a great anthology, which sometimes you get anthologies and you've all these different mishmash of writers and it all kind of it's up and down at times, but this hasn't. This was brilliant from page 1 to page 230 or whatever it was, 260, 300. There you go. From page 1 all the way through, it was brilliant because I think what helps is these are all friends. They're all the same sort of tastes. They all know they're in the same wee community, so they all be able to help each other out, and it all just mingled well. Another good thing I want to say before I drag on this video, I think it's half an hour I'm here talking now, it's maybe too long, but I want to say that watching a video there the other day on Jake's channel, he mentioned that he's releasing another Weird Frequencies, and he's releasing a horror anthology, and I'll be excited for them because these are stories written with love, the mainstream publishing doesn't want to look at these, and it's a shame because this is where the art is. This is where the love is for a lot of this rewriting, and we're out there. Us weird fiction readers, we're there, but mainstream media just don't want to know us. And for the likes of these guys to get together and publish this wee collection of stories, and then now hear that they're releasing another two next year is that's great. That's what it's all about. And the good news is too that he says on his video that it's open for other fans, watchers of the channels, people that are fans of these sort of tales that think, well, I can do that. I say go for it. Don't be holding back and thinking, oh, I've never written a proper story before, but you have this. But say you have, everybody's got a great story in their imagination. We read this stories, we read these weird frequencies or weird tales and fantasies, and because our imaginations are out of this world, that's what we have. It's something we have together. We're all imaginative people. You couldn't read these stories if you weren't. You couldn't pick up these stories and dive into them and love the atmosphere and all if you weren't an imaginative person. So everybody there feels like they're a wee bit not confident to go for one. Going for maybe submitting a story in. I'd say go for it. Try it. Just try your best. Be yourself. Because what have you got to lose? Your man. The only thing you're going to get is maybe Jake telling you, "Nah, mate, it's not the best." But you can always try again. And I want to just shout that out. I want people for the next two, or the one that it's open for submissions, to really give it a go, try, because I know there's great writers out there. It's just mainstream publishing don't want to know us, and that's just reality now. So that was the same for the greats back in the day. Lovecraft and Clark Asher Smith, Robert E. Howard, and C.L. Moore, and all the names go on. They weren't getting published by mainstream publishing. They had to do it by magazines and submitting and doing it for nothing. They weren't getting paid big money. Half of them had nothing. It was done for the love of the genre and the stories, and that's where the beauty is, because this whole book was made with love, and that was what made me want to pick it up at the start. I never expected it to be. I honestly didn't expect even the booktubers to see these videos or even highlight or comment on my video about it. I done it for the love of it for myself, because to me it's an art form I want to try and get out there more, and I'll try and finish this off, or maybe dragging on now. But I just want to say thank you very much. Thank you very much for the shout outs, and thank you very much for this wee piece of work that you created. And I had a comment saying, I'm just going to say this here, oh, you've wrecked your book, you've wrote all over it, you've destroyed it with your pens and your pencils, but I got two. So this here one here that's not been touched yet, that's mine. See this one here that I've written all over? That's going to be my mate's work. I'm going to lend him that one. So he can do, as I say, he gets that. But see, maybe brand new one here. That's for me. That's for my shelf forever. So it is. See, how to think about these things. But it's been a pleasure, and thanks for watching. And thanks if you stayed to the end of this video. And I don't mean to drag on here, but I just want to say you have done well. Pat yourselves in the back if you've got to the end of this video. Every writer or every person that was involved in this, and every fan of your videos that's bought it or commented on it, be proud of yourselves. It's us that's keeping weird fiction alive. It's there. It's just not there for the masses. It's for us weirdos. So stay weird, everybody, and all the best. It's been a pleasure.